The term influencer outreach has got a lot of clout these days. A lot of people are talking about influencer outreach and why it is important and things like that. I'd like to hear from you because you've done influencer outreach very effectively, I've seen. And I'd like you to share with us some of the easiest ways that someone can get started with an influence outreach.
Yeah, influencer outreach is interesting because it's like a lot of things in marketing. You can learn everything you can from other people that have done this, and you should, but you've actually got to do it and make it your own, and you've got to succeed, and you might have some minor setbacks or failures. So I've certainly gone through those, and it's kind of an evolution. There's certainly some best ways to start with, but then you've got to, depending on your industry and what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, kind of
Mhm.
tailor that to what you're doing. So for me, this influencer outreach has many benefits. The relationship building part of it, you're becoming more known in your industry, in your niche, for the topics that you're talking about. And if
Mhm.
you're doing long form content, which I believe in very strongly, you're going to position yourself very well with those influencers that you really know what you're talking about, because they're very educated and very experienced themselves on that particular topic. So you've got to demonstrate that first and foremost, that you really do know what you're talking about. So again, leading with that long form content, so it establishes and builds relationships and rapport with other influencers in that particular niche. You can use it to get quality backlinks. Again, if you do that well, and even some press. I mean, for clients, we've even gotten some articles and infographics listed on like Forbes,
Mhm.
on their website. So there's a PR aspect, a digital PR aspect to this as well. But I will say that there comes good with the bad. So when you start doing this, you're going to learn a number of things. And don't be discouraged if you get uh, uh, an email back from somebody that's really ticked off, that didn't like your outreach. Obviously, you want to be sensitive to that. And if you did something, you can take and learn from that and tweak and modify that for the next campaign. Certainly do that. I'm not saying ignore that, but don't get discouraged. For me, I would say I probably get, for every positive response I get back to my influencer email outreach, I might get
Okay.
one negative to like 10 or 15 positive. So
Wow.
you
Okay.
you are going to get some, in my experience, you're going to get some people who don't like email outreach, period. So
Right.
if you're getting a higher ratio than that, then I would be, or a lower ratio, I'd be more concerned. If you're getting a lot of negative feedback, then I would pause that campaign and really go back to the drawing board. But again, I've had way more people reach out and say, "Hey, thank you for sending me this article. This is a great article. I'll consider linking to it or
Yes.
sharing it socially." Or in some cases, this doesn't happen very often, they'll actually send it out to their email list and get you some additional distribution that way.
Perfect, perfect. So let's say that I own a brand that sells, let's say, skin products to
Mm,
that helps you to, help you glow your skin, right?
right.
So how can I actually get started? Whom should I be targeting, and how should my approach be structured?
So first and foremost, with influencer outreach, start with content. You've got to, if you don't have some good content that's not salesy and focused on selling,
Hmm.
you've got to start there. But in terms
Okay.
of building those lists, the way I do it, it depends on the type of influencer outreach. So sometimes I'll use a tool like Ahrefs to pull down a specific set of articles and people that are linking to those articles, and I'm trying to reach out to influencers that have linked to the highly ranking articles on that topic. So I'll use Ahrefs in that case, and then I'll use somebody on Upwork. Usually use people in the Philippines. For me in the States, they're great with English speaking, and they're really good at the work.
Hmm.
And then they marry the names and email addresses up with those lists through a couple of processes. They'll use some software like hunter.io. There's others you can use as well.
Hmm.
And then there's some manual processes too to fill in a few additional email addresses that we can't get with Hunter. that we can get either off the website or other more manual methods. So, and then a final step would really be cleaning that list to make sure it's those emails are accurate, and then
Mhm.
using some sort of cold email outreach software like
Mhm.
Mailshake, not to
Mhm.
be confused with Mailchimp.
Yes.
And Mailshake, I want to make that really clear. If you're doing influencer outreach, you do not want to use a permission-based opt-in
Okay. Yeah.
email service provider like Mailchimp.
Yes.
There are others, but use a cold email outreach because it's a different strategy. And again, I want to reinforce that you want to be reaching out with content first. Don't reach out with
Mhm.
sales using a cold email or influencer outreach approach.
Perfect. Perfect. So, if I were to summarize, how to get started, first I would start writing a lot of great quality content, very
Yeah,
helpful content on my website. And then I will, use tools like Ahrefs and other, BuzzSumo and things like that,
sure.
to find out who are the influencers for that particular keywords that I'm targeting. And then I will generate a list, like you can find out emails, right? Like either find out their email address or contact information from the website, or use a tool like hunter.io or any other,
Yeah,
email finding software. And I create a list of all the contacts and probably save it in a Google Sheet or something.
correct.
And then I use a software like Mailshake, which is a cold outreach tool, and import that list of influencers inside, and I start reaching out to them and with an email saying that, hey, this is some content that I believe will be very helpful to your audience. So would you mind promoting this to your list? Right?
Correct.
In a better word, in a better way of
Yeah,
approach, right? And
absolutely. And go ahead.
you ask them to promote it to their list by or even share this on their social media and things like that, right?
Yeah, and I would say that the reason you use something like Mailshake is that you're automating those emails. So I usually send around a 4 email series follow
Mm-hmm.
up unless and so they get all those 4 emails in a drip series unless they reply to me, and then I start a manual one-to-one conversation with them. So
Right.
it just helps automate that process rather than doing an initial email and forgetting about it. They forget about it, and there's because we all are busy, right? And it just because they didn't respond to the first email doesn't mean they aren't interested. They
Yes.
just might be busy and have missed it.
Absolutely. Yep, the magic is in the follow-up, like
It is.
in the first email when people don't respond, when you are persistent in following up with valuable information, it should not be like, you should never use words like I'm following up with you or things like that, right? It'll be like an insult if
You're
you
right.
have to follow up. But yeah, this is great because, with a tool like Mailshake, you can actually automate a lot of manual tasks, right? And
Absolutely.
that makes a lot of sense. Great, great. Thanks a lot for sharing that information with us, Miles.
Sure.